So Michael, thanks for joining me today. I've been wanting to hunt you down for a long time because when I started this project, I thought, you know, you're somebody out there who has supported women and women's causes for a long time. And I'm curious as to why that was important to you and why you have a passion around it.
Well, you know what, there's a number of reasons. I mean, I think when WIMI first started, for certain, I think I just recognized a need, and it's interesting to think that those of us with privilege tend not to recognize it. So it's easy for men in particular to sort of sit back and say, well, is there really a problem? Because the problem doesn't affect us.
Tell me a little bit about your TED Talk and why you chose that subject matter.
Well, I think you know why I chose that subject matter, but yeah, so back in, so my TED Talk I did on what I call redefining badass. And I talk a lot about the impact that emotion has on human behavior. And it's been a really interesting journey because I realized sort of early in my sales career that my customers bought on emotion, justified by logic. And, you know, we use that in the sales context to promote our product or service. And then later as a business leader, I realized that, you know, staff productivity was directly linked to emotion and emotional intelligence. And then, you know, as you know, in October of 2015, my girlfriend Colleen was murdered by an ex-boyfriend who subsequently took his own life. And, you know, when you look at the impact that emotion has on human behavior, like I said, for me, it started in the business realm, but when you extend that to everyday life, you can see sort of the extreme end of the spectrum where this can happen. So, you know, Paul Jacob, the man that killed Colleen, was a man that made a decision based on emotion. He made a decision with very permanent consequences based on a very temporary emotion. So the talk was really about allowing men to feel. And I think that is a huge issue we run into these days. Again, it's interesting when I talk at some of the universities and the young men come up to me, and you can just see men everywhere are literally dying for somebody to give them permission to feel. You look at the suicide rates in men, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I read up about it. Like when girls try, they usually make it, but when guys try, they're pretty successful every single time.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, we've got this sort of stereotypical, you know, what we believe it means to be a man, and we've got to suck it up, and we've got to suppress our emotions, and we've got to remain stoic, and it's just bullshit. The problem with that is our emotions are coming out one way or the other. So to think that you can suppress them, avoid them, or ignore them is just wrong. It just can't happen.
So you literally took the biggest mother load of lemons and made some magical lemonade. That's what you did.
Yeah, well, you know, I had a choice, and that's the thing. We all have a choice. I could have curled up into a little ball and sort of withered away when Colleen was killed, but that's not what she would have wanted to happen. And, you know, I was fortunate. I had a lot of really good people in my life that sort of surrounded me and lifted me up and sort of carried me through. And one in particular, a friend of mine, Eric Yogi from Montreal, sent me a copy of a letter by a fellow by the name of Ramdas that was a letter to Rachel, and he'd written a letter to the parents of a young woman that was brutally murdered. And in that letter, like, it was very short, I think it was maybe 4 paragraphs. That letter, I mean, I can honestly say changed my life. In that letter, there were sort of 3 big takeaways. The first thing he said was, who among us is strong enough to remain conscious through such teachings as you're receiving? Probably very few. And when I read that, I realized that, you know, this was an opportunity I've been given. It's not an opportunity I would wish upon my worst enemy, but it's an opportunity very few people will ever get to experience. So who am I to fucking waste that, right? Like, who am I to squander that and I made a very deliberate decision to remain awake and stay conscious through this,
yes.
and feel what I needed to feel.
The A in Sparkle is for adversity, and how we can accept adversity and use it as a platform to advance upon even bigger opportunities. And what's so beautiful about this is seriously one of the biggest pieces of adversity you could go through, like the death of a loved one in such a traumatic, awful kind of way, and then you can actually turn around and take that and turn it into something beautiful to help other people.
Yeah.
Like there's always that silver lining, even though it might be hard to see it in that moment. There's always that silver lining in every cloud and a big rainbow that can pop out.
Yes.
If you choose to make that happen, if you choose to make beautiful shit happen.
Yes, absolutely.